Your nonprofit's AI adoption number measures hobbies, not organizational capability. Somebody on your team worked out how to get a first draft of a grant narrative in 20 minutes instead of a Saturday. Somebody in development cleans up donor emails with it. Both of those are real, and I'm not knocking either one. But neither of them is something your organization owns. It's a private habit that happens to occur at work. A personal login, a browser tab, a prompt that lives in one person's head. And when that gets reported up to a board, it gets counted exactly the same as a system. The sector data has the same shape. The 2026 Nonprofit AI Adoption Report from Virtuous and Fundraising.ai, fielded in December 2025 across 346 organizations, found that 92% of nonprofits use AI and 7% report a major improvement in achieving their mission. Sit in that gap for a second. 92 and 7. An adoption number that, high sitting on top of an impact number that low, is not a rollout that hasn't finished yet. It's a sign you're measuring the wrong thing and feeling good about the result. Because an adoption survey asks a question about people. Do you use it? Almost everybody says yes, and almost everybody is telling the truth. Capability is a different question, and nobody is asking it. Can this organization do the thing on purpose, again, next quarter, without the specific person who figured it out? Those two questions produce wildly different answers inside the same building. One is a headcount of curiosity, the other is an asset. The follow-on coverage broke the sector into rungs, and the shape is worth knowing. 65% of nonprofits describe their AI use as reactive and individual. One-off prompts, personal experimentation. 18% run it operationally, across team workflows. 7% have it inside goals, budgets, and performance indicators. So the top of the ladder is thin, which everyone expects. The part that should bother you is the middle. Barely anybody made it to the second rung, and the second rung is the only one you can actually climb to from where most organizations are standing. And the reason that jump doesn't happen is not budget and it's not talent. It's that nothing about the first rung produces the second one on its own. A person getting privately good at a tool generates no artifact, no written process, no shared account, no place the knowledge lands. You can have 20 people quietly excellent at this and still have an organization that knows nothing, because none of it ever left anybody's head. Individual skill does not compound into institutional skill by accident. Somebody has to go get it. Here's the number I would put on the wall. 4% of nonprofits maintain a documented, repeatable workflow. 4. So run that test on your own organization. If the person who worked out the prompt leaves next month, does the work stop? If it stops, that was a personal trick, and it was a good one, and it's gone. That is not the staffer's failure. They did the right thing, and they did it without being asked. The organization failed to catch what they built. So what actually converts private experimentation into something the organization owns? 4 things, and none of them are a tool purchase. The first one is boring, and it's the one that stops most of this cold. The data has to be reachable, not tidy. Reachable. If your program history is a shared drive of PDFs, a scanned board packet, and 3 spreadsheets that use different names for the same funder, then every useful thing anybody does with AI starts with a human retyping context. That's a tax you pay forever, and nobody ever writes it down as a cost. The second thing is one workflow that more than one person runs the same way, not 10. 1. Pick the thing you do every month that everybody dreads, the funder report, the intake summary, the board packet, and write down how it actually gets done, the real prompt, the real inputs, and what a good output looks like. Then hand it to somebody who didn't build it and watch them run it. If they can, you have a capability. If they can't, you have a demo, and demos do not survive a resignation. Third is a written line about what AI may and may not touch. Donor records, beneficiary data, case notes, grant narratives. This does not need to be a policy document with a cover page. It needs to be one page a program manager can read in 3 minutes and act on, and write it now while nothing has gone wrong. If you write it after an incident, it becomes a defense document, and it will be too restrictive because everyone in the room is scared. Fourth is transparency, and I mean specifically with your board and your funders, before somebody else raises it, where you use it, what it touches, who reviews the output. A nonprofit runs on trust in a way a manufacturer doesn't. Nobody stops giving to a factory because it used a model to schedule a line. Say it plainly and early, and it reads as competence. Wait until a program officer asks, and the exact same sentence reads like a disclosure you got caught into making. Then there's the step almost nobody does, which is reinvestment. An hour that AI saves somebody is not mission impact. It's just an hour. If leadership doesn't say out loud where that hour goes, more calls with families, one more site visit, somebody actually taking a lunch break, the overloaded week absorbs it quietly and nothing changes, which is exactly why so many organizations report a vague general improvement and cannot point at one thing that is different. The time was real. Nobody ever spent it on purpose. So name the destination before you deploy the thing. Which meeting gets shorter? Which service gets more hours? Which person stops working Sundays? Write it next to the workflow. And then go look in 90 days and check whether it actually happened, because half the time it won't have. And that is useful information too. A saved hour you cannot locate is indistinguishable from an hour you never saved. Your funders can't tell those apart either, and at some point, they stop taking your word for it. Last thing, and it's why this matters now instead of next year, money is moving into this sector specifically for AI. The OpenAI Foundation committed $50 million to its 2026 People First AI Fund. Applications closed on July 15th, and applicants are notified by October. I'm not telling you to chase that particular fund. I'm telling you that a grant lands on whatever operating structure already exists on the day it clears. Money that lands on private experimentation funds more private experimentation. It buys seats, it buys a pilot, it buys a consultant who leaves, and 18 months later, you have a slightly more expensive version of the same 92%. Money that lands on reachable data, one shared workflow, a written line, and a named place for the saved hour turns into something still running after the grant period ends. So, my position hasn't moved. Stop reporting adoption. Report what somebody else could run tomorrow if the person who built it didn't come in.